Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, you betcha, yeah.
If it's made in Minnesota, who's making it and how?
Yeah, you got that right.
It's the Makers of Minnesota, focusing on the products and services uniquely made in Minnesota, and conversations with the makers, entrepreneurs, and innovators in Minnesota about how they conceived of their products and how they brought them to market. With Stephanie Hansen, it's the Makers of Minnesota.
Hi, this is Stephanie Hansen, and we are here for episode 10 of Makers of Minnesota. It's hard to believe we're at episode 10. We've been having such a good time talking with the entrepreneurs and the innovators in our fine state of Minnesota. If you have been listening to the podcast and you've enjoyed them, please give us a rating. That helps other people find out about these podcasts. You can find them on Podcast One. You can rate us there. You can also rate us on iTunes. And if you want to follow us, you can follow us on Instagram at Makers of Minnesota, where we're highlighting other makers, as well as Twitter, Makers of MN, and we have a Facebook page as well. So if you have any suggestions for stories you'd like to hear, or let's say you have a friend that invented something cool that you want me to know about, you can let us know the information there, and we will look those people up. So for episode 10, I am excited to introduce you to Chad Gillard. He is the co-founder of Midwest Pantry. Hi, Chad.
Hey.
You can find him at MidwestPantry.com. His cohort is Zoe Glass. She's the president. He reminded me when we were starting that it is a woman-owned company, which is very cool.
Yeah, we're very progressive.
Yes, you are. You are progressive. And what I've always wanted to spend time with you because you're very entrepreneurial. Let's just start there. I think I first heard about you when you started a business with a girlfriend of mine, Aunt Elsie's. Some people say Abelskiver. Some people say Abelskiver.
Right? Lisa's going to come after you.
Yeah, Lisa's got some fancy Danish way of saying it. But tell me about how was that your first company that you started?
It was like our first official company where we had actually had to get a license and registered with the Secretary of State. But I like to tell the story. It actually started at the Irish Fair, and I was just volunteering. I had just moved to the Twin Cities, and heard about the Irish Fair. I went down, volunteered, and I ran a music stage.
Okay.
For forever, but you couldn't get coffee. There was really I had just moved back from Ireland. There was no Irish food, and the next year I was talking to some friends, and they're like, "You should just do it." So my family and I just started a food booth at the Irish Fair, knew really nothing about the food industry or how to do this. But
what did you sell?
We sold baked potatoes.
Yum.
Sold, right?
It's like the world's most perfect food.
Right? And can you imagine an Irish Fair without a baked potato, right?
I can't.
It defies logic. But, and then we sold coffee, tea, because it's an Irish Fair, you need tea, and then scones. So that's what we started with. We nearly got wiped out the first year, but Kieran Folliard bailed us out and because we bought 80 cases of potatoes, way more product. We thought about 1 in every 10 person was going to buy a potato.
Okay.
Way overestimated. And so they bought our leftover product and let us at least break even so that we could come back the next year. But we learned really quickly.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. And then we were there for 10 years. It was just my folks and I and my sister and my aunt and uncle. And it was a total blast for us. And we just learned a ton of stuff. But
did you have the same product every year?
We grew every year. So I ended up selling the name of the booth because it was just us. So we sold the name of the booth to an Irish pub out in Golden Valley.
What was it called?
We started with the Prady Bunch.
Okay.
So Prady is Irish for potato. So we thought that was cool. And we ended up selling it to, I'm forgetting, Kip's Pub.
Okay.
Out. And so they didn't have a presence at the Irish Fair and so I'm like, we can cover our costs by actually selling the name on the booth. Benefits them, it benefits us. I love these win-win situations, right?
Sure.
So the other cool thing is that we brought in some of their menu items. And so we just continued to just grow. And we actually had one of the larger menus at the Irish Fair. But what was cool about that was that because we were starting to prove that model that, yeah, people really do want Irish food, the Irish Fair board decided to just really be kind of like, we're just only going to have Irish food. So that's when more of the pubs started coming in. So it was really cool. And we felt, you know, it was great.
Yeah.
It was cool. And so out of that, we were doing sweet corn, and that my mom started a sweet corn booth. So or a business. So out of that first business spun up my mom's business, where she was going around to different festivals and fairs selling sweet corn. And so she was kind of on a circuit.
Yep.
And, you know, we're all basically carnies. We just love
Yeah.
to be out and dealing with the public, feeding people is awesome. And so when I met Lisa and their Danish family and learned about these appelskiver, right, I'm like, we need to test this out. So we actually brought the appelskiver out and sold it alongside of my mom's corn.
Okay, and explain what it is for people that aren't Danish and don't know. We just call them baseball pancakes, but
right. So they are a Danish pastry. They're perfectly round when they're made properly. So mine are perfect. Lisa's are another story. We'll talk about. That's another podcast. But so they're filled with. You can fill them with things. Traditionally, it's apple. But when we were down, we ended up getting into the Mill City.
Yeah, you guys
Farmers
grew
Market.
really fast. So you
Yeah,
have
it
this
was
baseball
awesome.
pancake. You can fill them with sweet or savory.
Yeah.
And it's a cumbersome process because you need a special pan.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like a iron, a cast iron, kind of like a half of a sphere.
Yep.
And so you put the batter in, and you kind of got to give it some tender loving care. You're turning it
With a knitting needle
with a
or
knitting
a
needle.
chopstick.
You got a good memory.
I make these, actually.
Oh, you do?
We make them for Christmas Eve every year.
Awesome. Yeah, they're super fun.
Yeah,
like
our
my
family's
kids were
Danish,
raised.
so
Oh, there you go. SEN.
yeah, just like,
Got it.
okay, we're going to have appelskiver. We only have them once a year, but we all have pans.
Right. Well, it's a big deal, especially my family's Irish, so we did not have this. So it was new to me, and I was just fascinated by it. And so it was really cool when we were out at Mill City or other
So
festivals.
how did you get into Mill City right away? Because that's
It was totally luck, right? They were having a Scandinavian bread day,
Okay.
which super specific. And so they called us and wanted us to come do a demo, like a 30-minute demo.
Okay.
And apparently some other woman wanted to go do it and called an hour after us. So how weird.
Yeah.
So we got the spot, and they were super pumped. We were super pumped. And it was supposed to be 30 minutes, and we were there 2 hours.
Just demoing.
Demoing. People just kept coming, and we just kept making. And of course, I can't shut up. And just kept talking to people. And basically, the Mill City, I think, was it was only a year old, I think, at that time, or maybe it was the second year. And they're like, you just need to come back. And there was a spot for us, and we were right next to Cafe Palmyra, the coffee guy, and it was awesome.
Love at first bite. So you're out there.
We are.
Everybody was loving the appelskiver.
Yeah.
One of the things that I learned from my friend Lisa is how challenging it is just to run a farmer's market booth, because at this point you have another job, right?
Yeah, we all had jobs and kids. My wife and I had a baby like the same year we were setting up at the farmer's market. So
oh my gosh. So
it's so much work, and these guys, I mean, they are out there. And
so what time would you come out there? And
well, for us, we live in town, obviously, so we could roll out of bed at 6, but some of these farmers who are up picking their produce fresh for that day and are driving in from out of town, I mean, they can be up at 4 a.m.
yeah, it's crazy.
And it depends on the market too. It's different. So Mill City, you have an established spot, but some of the other markets, like I think St. Paul, I don't know if they still run that way, but you got to show up and because it's a first come, first
serve, right?
Like a true, that's like the quintessential farmer's market style. And when the stalls are gone, they're gone. So The early bird definitely gets the worm in that case.
So you're making these able skewer, and at the same time, are you still at Irish Fair?
Yeah, we did the Irish Fair for a couple, 3 more years after that. Really until we realized that if we really wanted to make On Elsie's go, we had to graduate from the farmer's market to get into stores and go more that wholesale route. So the trick with that is it's obviously less margin, but you're not investing all that time. So it becomes more of a volume game.
And what was interesting about your product, I thought, was it really sold itself, but you had to do the demo. Like you had to watch someone make them. You had to watch them turn them and make these perfectly beautiful balls.
Right.
So you decide, hey, we're working so hard at these farmers markets. I know at this point your friend Lisa, she worked for me during the week. So, I mean, she never really had a day off except one day a week, and it was challenging.
And then we did a lot of the preparation and things like making up we packaged up the mix. We use really good like organic Minnesota grown flour from up in Freeport.
Yep.
And so we would mix all this stuff up at night and package it. And then to get the batter made and all that was all on top of, we'd work all day making preparations, social media, doing all that.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Really, it becomes a lot. It was never-ending task list.
Hey everybody, Jared Sebesta here. Check out my brand new podcast, 2 Week Notice, where we discuss the process of quitting your job and living a more fulfilling life. I want you living the dream. Find 2 Week Notice on my website, jaredsebesta.com, or subscribe on iTunes today.
So did you make money?
We did make money. We were splitting it several ways with the partnership, but it also split up the work. But
so are we talking like a couple $1,000s or a couple $100 by the time it was all said and done?
Oh, like on a good weekend, we'd take home a few $100s.
Okay.
So it was a hobby.
Yeah.
Like a hobby, like a lifestyle business, I would say. But we were really carving out the market, right? Because like you said, people who aren't Danish don't often know what they are. So that was really the challenge, right? Is if you saw it, it was super cool and fun and it was intriguing. I always called it the show because we'd have 3-4 different pans set up in like a glass
partition.
Case. So the people could come up and watch them being made. And it was super fun, and it was super cool because if people grew up with them and they hadn't ever seen them made outside of their kitchen and often not at Christmas time.
Yep.
So for us, we were pulling in different, things from the market. Like we'd pull in the buffalo sausage from the buffalo guy and chocolate from the chocolate people and just really trying to vary it up, which really it kind of developed this cult following of people who wanted to see what the new flavor was that week, or, and then up against, we always had to have apple for the diehards who are like, only apple, So it was just fun that way. And that's actually where I met my business partner, Zoe.
Okay. So you're making these apple skewers, you're going out on the weekends, you're working your job, you've got a small kid.
Yeah.
Do you remember, obviously it was fun, but I was just going to say, were you exhausted?
Oh, so exhausted. I had a new job too that I was trying to learn.
Wow.
But yeah, I was exhausted. But it was, it's always fun to be around people who are starting businesses because they're so excited. Like they can't sleep at night. They're up, writing ideas down, and they can't sleep because, your mind's going a million miles an hour.
That's exactly why I wanted to do this podcast, because there's something about people like you and maybe people like me. I don't know if I fully fall into the camp of entrepreneur. I kind of got dragged into it and then made it something good. But there is like that just kind of drive in your head, and there's always the ideas, and there's a million good ideas, right?
Right.
But you're trying to figure out, do I want to do this? What's going to make money? Do I have a passion for it? So how did you go from, so now you're working these farmers markets to what is your now business of Midwest Pantry?
Yeah.
Because that's, I think, what's so unique is what you did.
Well, I don't know if it's stupidity or stubbornness or what it is, but there's something there. But yeah, so what we were finding is that because this Apple SKU product was so demonstrative, you had to be out showing it to people, and as long as you were, it was selling great. But we had product, the pans we had made we had the pans cast here in Minneapolis.
Yeah, you guys founded a pan.
Yeah, that was a super cool process in and of itself. But we had them in stores in 30 different states. Couldn't possibly be out demonstrating across, that far. So it was really like, what are we going to do with this? And so we felt we really had to, if this was going to be successful, really had to own our local market. And found a lot of challenges for a small artisanal business at that time. And although farmers markets were really at that, because this is 8 years ago, 10 years ago. So the market really was like people came to farmers markets and they got local, but we weren't seeing at that time local in stores as much.
Yeah. And
at least not in like Cub, and it just wasn't quite there yet. It wasn't
mainstream.
It wasn't mainstream. That's a good word.
And people, you can have the best product in the world, but to go and knock on Joe Grocer's door, and hey, can I have some shelf space? Well,
I mean, and it doesn't make sense for the grocer. Like, it's not that they won't like it. It's just that they have a process and they have a million things they're doing to run their business.
And they can't just keep the back door open with every mom and pop that comes through.
So that's when Lori at Golden Fig, she was doing great things in St. Paul with local food. And Yin opened her store in Minneapolis, Local Delish. So that's actually, she was the first store to pick our Apple SKU product up, right? And we even were watching her and how she was doing it and dedicated to local. Same with Lori, dedicated to local, and the amount of work that they put in to
source,
just order and find new product. And they're both really good at it. But it was hard, right? And then not only that, but like you got people coming from, like, for us even, we didn't know the wholesale business. There's a whole vernacular. There's all these, we didn't know what that process was. So they were educating us on how to bridge that gap.
There are a handful of people. You mentioned Anne, you mentioned Lori.
Yeah.
I also think the Kowalski family has done a lot to educate and help local.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's not only just, hey, I have this great product. It's packaging.
So many things.
Yeah. It's how often you're going to replenish, shelf stability, marketing. I mean, there's just a million things that go into it.
Yep. So many things. And I think the market really has, there's been an ecosystem of support that has kind of blossomed around this need, because it's so good, right? These people who are making these products are super passionate. The products are super great. There's realities of business, though, too, on both sides. And it's been really cool to see how that's really developed over time. Even with the Department of Ag, who is all about, supporting local. They went, at that time, they thought a small Minnesota business their definition was Angie's Kettle Corn.
Right.
Who was, at that, she was just on Martha Stewart, and she was blowing up quickly to be the number one kettle corn in the country. And they didn't realize yet, because, compared to, Land O'Lakes and some of these guys, that is a small food business.
And that was the local.
And that was local.
Land O'Lakes at the time. That was local.
And it is all local.
Yes.
It's just that the needs are very different because of the different types of businesses, right? So, to their credit, the Department of Ag and others, like you mentioned, the Kowalskis, they've really worked to figure out and evolved what they're doing to really embrace what these small food companies are doing, and really it's been, it's so exciting to see now where, like the Department of Ag now is really helping with defray the cost of doing demos in stores, because they know what a boon that is to getting product into stores. That you need a lot of support there. So they're offering that.
As it pertains to, you see this movement, you see there's a need to help people get their products into stores and figure out how to work through this machine.
Yeah.
So you're sitting down and you're like, I'm going to now start another business called Midwest Pantry.
Yeah, it was, well, let's be real. I mean, we had just been at the farmer's market. Zoe and Amy are like, we need to go have a beer. So we did. We were sitting outside and just, you've been working all morning and just that tired yet excited, like headspace.
Sure.
It is. It's a total buzz. And we're like, it's just too hard. And, if we work together, because what was happening is I was selling Zoe's jam, serving them with my apple skew. So you ordered some apple skew, you got some of Zoe's jam with it.
Okay.
Which is Lucille's Kitchen Garden, right? And I was always trying to pay her because I'm like, this is great for me. It's so simple. I don't have to, I can source this ingredient at the market. I was seeing benefit in it. What I wasn't realizing, why Zoe wasn't charging me, and finally she kind of had to slap me upside the head, and she's like, Chad, you're never paying for this because whatever you're serving on your apple skew, I'm selling out of. And so there was really, like, people would come try it, and then they would go over and buy Zoe out.
Okay.
So there was this really cool thing that had this dynamic where you're working together. It was super beneficial for the consumer. They love the idea that the market people are working together, and it truly was that market. Like, there was so much community and a strong community feel between those vendors at Mill City. It was awesome. And the bottom line on the business was also being affected. And as soon as we piece that together, we're like, okay, so we're doing things together that we couldn't do on our own. And so what if we just continue to do this, bring more people in, it actually defrays the cost further. So that's when we started sharing booth space and organizing more our community of vendors, which at that time was only at Mill City, to do like the Food and Wine Show and some trade shows in Chicago. And we became a drop ship site for speedy delivery because it defrayed all of our costs and it allowed us to do things that we couldn't afford on our own, or we'd be able to afford them faster in our development of our company. So
is Midwest Pantry a co-op of sorts?
Well, I don't know that I call it a co-op. I mean, it certainly is a member-driven organization. It started.
And how much does it cost?
So right now for an individual, it's $65 a year. You join, you get access to all of our meetups, which we have one tonight, actually. And then you get discounted rates on our events. So in November, Small Business Saturday, we'll have the Shop Small Holiday Market. We have... And
is that for consumers to go?
Yeah, everyone, all of your listeners should come.
It's a public holiday market. It's Saturday, November 26th.
Yep, the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So it's Small Business Saturday, and it's such a cool kickoff to the holiday shopping season, and it's just a great way to get a ton of local products and just really knock off your shopping list for the holidays. So really fun, cool, unique gifts.
And then you have showcases for the trade.
Exactly. So this is where people coming out of the farmers markets like us, there's so much to learn, right? But what is cool is that we set up this trade show. We call it the Local Food and Gift Trade Show. And we're bringing buyers in from across the region, like you were saying, Kowalski's and some of the local distributors, Market Distributing and others, are coming out now to really find where these local products, what the hottest things are. I think at our March show this year, we had 6 or 7 new products launch. And it was so cool to see the buzz around these new entrepreneurs who are testing out new products and really getting a jump start on all of those things that you need to learn to get into the market. what we started because there were so many questions to learn or questions to answer before getting started. We put a whole education series together to help people answer questions and really get them prepared for this is how, these are the questions that buyers are going to ask. Because it's a totally different thing that if you or I just walk up to someone at a farmer's market.
Sure.
It's they're interested in different things. You actually have to teach the buyer how to sell your product because that's actually what they're doing.
Right.
So it's a different skill set. And even so it's from setting your wholesale price, which is there's an equation and all these things to make sure you're building in all the right margin and making sure you're leaving room for a distributor should you grow to the point where you need one. But also, even from that basic pricing stuff to how do you set up a trade show booth?
It's shocking
totally different
how many
skill set.
people don't know how to do that, though.
Well,
most people don't.
You don't. I mean, you just don't come out of the womb knowing this stuff. And, people figure it out. It's not like it's rocket science.
Sure,
so
but you're shortening the learning curve.
Exactly. So that's our whole point, right? Is let's help everyone grow faster and stronger. Help them grow stronger, faster, and get more healthier local companies in this ecosystem.
You have things like training or seminars on social media, on work-life balance.
Yeah.
What do you think of all the seminars that you do for these product producers that are Minnesota makers of Minnesota, right?
Yes,
and they're
they are.
trying to get their products to market. What do you think is the most valued resource you provide?
Oh, that's a good one. Honestly, I do think it's the fact that it can be done. Like we're living examples of it.
Yeah, like the hope.
Right. I mean, if we were event people, if we were an event company, we would have made different decisions and probably have grown the company much faster and sold it probably by now. But we're not. We're food producers. So we've been very focused on making sure we're bringing return and value at every step of the way because we are the people that we're helping.
Do you still produce food yourself?
I don't. I'm pretty much out of the kitchen now, and I do the marketing and all the schmoozing.
Yep, because you guys have meetups and
we constantly are having things and getting to know. Just so we pivoted this year, and what we realized after looking at other ecosystems and food systems around the country is that Minnesota really is positioned well. We have a heritage of food production. We have the growers here. We have amazing chefs. Mm-hmm. We have the highest per capita number of co-ops. We have a super educated consumer base that craves and demands local products. We have locally owned grocery stores with really sophisticated consumers as well. And these are all things that are unique to Minnesota. Plus, we have a Department of Ag, which is super supportive. We have AURI, which is they're funded by the legislature, and their whole goal, the whole reason they exist, is to help get Minnesota-grown products or like grains and things like that, things that are grown here, into the market. So it's a fantastic resource for new companies, new recipes, new products of all kinds, including food.
What does AURI stand for?
Agricultural Utilization Research Institute.
One of those super user-friendly names.
But it's so awesome. These people are fantastic, and they're amazing resource with the amount that they accomplish with a very efficient staff is just astounding. And so as we took a look at this whole, what we call the ecosystem of support around our food creator community, we feel we're trying to really help formalize that with the intent of making Minnesota the number one place to start and run a food business. We have all the support here. We have all the ingredients here, all this knowledge here, and we like to help each other. It's in our nature, right? And we're seeing in other parts of the country where people are moving their companies to like organic companies have been moving to Boulder because they can get investment there.
Right.
They can get support from the community. Well, we have all that here as well. And as we continue to see investors surge in healthcare and
Tech.
and retail and tech, these people are going to want to diversify their investments. And why not in food? There's more and more. It's really exciting the amount of visibility our local food community is creating in keeping some of those investment dollars in our state.
So it sounds like Midwest Pantry is still working for the little guy, if you want to call it that, the producer.
Yeah.
But that you're also getting more involved in the global state of Minnesota politics,
Absolutely.
the lobbying, the not being a lobbyist per se, but
Right.
that all of these local communities, all these local products, all of this localness can translate into big money in our state.
It really does. I mean, think about what the other piece that is so cool, just kind of building on what you're saying and the impact it has on our state, is these businesses, especially food businesses, tend to be started more by women and even minorities. Like a higher percentage of minorities start food businesses. So if we can help these types of businesses scale smarter and healthier and faster, the impact that has on our community and society is great, because these are the types of businesses that are they're called high frequency spenders. So, a single mom, let's say, starts a food business. Any profit she makes is going right back into her family and her community and creating stability around her, which, and these small companies too, they create a ton of jobs.
Yeah.
You're a small business owner. You've seen this
I was.
movie. So, like our company, it's part-time right now, but it doesn't take very long. One order out of a Lunds and Byerly's order, that can create a part-time job for somebody.
Yeah. And it has,
So across the board, we have people all the time asking for more and more help, whether it's in the kitchen or doing demos or,
So let's
all
talk
of these
about
things.
that. As you grow and you're helping these food manufacturers grow their artisanal products.
Yeah.
What we're hearing on the restaurant side and just in the service industry in general is there's so much of a crunch on employment, trying to find qualified workers. Is that an area of growth perhaps for Midwest Pantry, trying to help people be more attractive to employees? And
Well, yeah, I think what I think is interesting is the approach that we're taking with this is the one that's always worked for us. So it's not like we're going to go out and hire, I'm going to speak for Lucille's
Sure.
Kitchen Garden, right? We're not going to go out and hire a person to do all our demos, but that's a big risk. But what if we pulled together 3-4 companies who could then keep that person actually employed?
yeah, and would know the
at a
products
reasonable
more
rate.
intimately.
Exactly. So then it's worth all of us spending our time to train that one person, and it gives them a living wage, which keeps them interested. So it becomes a cycle.
Yeah. So what's unique about all this is, so you still have your day job,
I do.
and I can see that this could grow.
Yeah,
and it
let's
could,
hope.
Yeah, it can grow quickly if
Mm-hmm.
it starts to reach some of these other pockets of spending and reaching
Yeah.
the level of getting political notice, let's just
Yeah,
say.
absolutely.
Would you then do it full time? I mean, are you a computer developer?
Well, I work for Go-Kart Labs, so it's a digital innovation lab.
Well, so you're an innovator anyway.
Yeah, right. Well, that is how I explain it, right? So it's my crossover is startups. I absolutely love startup companies. So Midwest Pantry, I'm working with food companies that are starting
Yep.
up, and in my day job, I'm dealing with digital companies that are standing up. So it's super fun. I don't know. I think where we're at right now is the goal is to get Zoe more focused on Midwest Pantry.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot of development this year through tremendous support from this ecosystem that we've created. to be able to do that. And then if it keeps growing, I keep all the options open.
Yeah,
I mean,
who knows?
I'm doing things that I love in both places, so it's really not work to me.
And who do you want to join Midwest Pantry? Like, who listening to this, if they know someone like, oh, my grandma makes salsa or Jenny makes donuts?
Right. So the coolest thing that about Midwest Pantry that I love about our members is we have people that are coming with an idea. From people who are coming with an idea to people who have been in the food industry for 30 years and are absolute experts. And we put them together and they're sharing their ideas and their knowledge. And, you know, there's this woman, she's Jazzy Foods. We met her at a event earlier in the year and she's like, where have you guys been? I just got my product into Kowalski's and I could have used your help.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, I'm sorry we didn't meet earlier, but look how awesome you are that you figured this out on your own and how much easier now it's going to be now that you found your people.
Yeah.
So it's really people that are have an idea, that just want to be around other people who are jazzed about being entrepreneurs and know the food industry, to people who are growing their companies, you know, from either they're at the farmer's market and want to take that jump into wholesale.
What's been like one of your biggest success stories, do you think?
Oh, so have you heard of Terroir chocolate? Have you had their chocolate?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. So I love
TRROIR. They have it at Surdyk's. I know that.
Yes.
I'm sure they have it other places
They
too.
do. They're blowing up around the Twin Cities, and I know in greater Minnesota as well. But I love telling their story because, first of all, they're just an awesome couple. They live in Fergus Falls. Zoe was passing through and just happened to connect with them. So they stopped and had a slice of pizza in Fergus a couple of years ago. What we didn't know at the time is that they had been working with the Department of Ag to get some capital loans to get their equipment going, because making chocolate, they do a bean to bar. So that's an expensive process, but they're really astute and did all their research, and the Department of Ag helped them get this equipment that they needed. They actually went through AURI to develop some really unique processes to make the chocolate. And then they came to us, and they were in like 20 stores. So they knew what was going on. They'd been doing this for a while. They were serious entrepreneurs. And they ended up doing our trade show last fall, I believe. Now, so they started with 20 stores. Now, a year later, they're in 75 stores throughout the region and projecting to be in 150 or something.
Wow, that's a lot of growth.
A ton of growth. They just won this 2 or 3 amazing awards from the International Chocolate Festival. So like it's just, things are really starting to pick up for them, and I couldn't be happier about it, because they come from Fergus to come to I'll probably see them tonight, honestly. They're super involved. They're super happy to share and they're so humble, right?
Yeah.
Just true Minnesotans.
And nice people.
Yeah. And so you love to see success like that, and it's hard earned, but they also are turning around to help the next person in any way that they can. So
that is a good story.
It's a great story. I love those guys.
So we've been speaking with Chad Gillard. It is Midwest Pantry. You can shop their holiday market, which is open to consumers. It'll be November 26th. It's going to be at the St. Anthony Community Center. It's Saturday for Small Business Saturday, which really seems to be picking up steam, doesn't it, in the last 5 years?
It's been cool. There's been a lot of other markets that have popped up around.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much demand for it. And they're all doing great.
Yeah.
They're all doing great, which is super cool.
If you are interested in Midwest Pantry or curious about learning more about it, we'll have information on our website at our Facebook page that you can reach out to them, or you can send us a tweet and we can get you hooked up with Chad. Chad, it's really fun to talk with you and see this evolution, because it's hard to believe it's been 8 years that you've been working on this.
It is hard to believe. Time flies when you're having fun.
It
as they
really
say.
does. And do you okay, so I know as you're sitting there that there's other ideas floating around in your head. Are you trying to squash those down so that you can stay focused?
I'm definitely working on focusing.
Okay.
I'm trying to be very essential about how I approach
and purposeful.
things. Yeah.
And I think some of that comes with age and just time of being an entrepreneur. That my husband used to say, we could do that, but do we want to do that, or can we make money doing that?
Right.
And that's not always the same thing.
Yeah, because honestly, I've learned the hard way. If you're working on the wrong thing, it's time away from working on the right thing.
Yeah.
So
that is experience.
Yeah, right. So I really try to focus on what is the most impactful and the right things I should be working on.
How do you know what those right things are?
Well, I go with my gut, honestly. Like, it sounds a little trite, but it's really true. I've learned not to. I have a good sense, and I learned to trust that.
So trusting your instincts, that's a really important thing to learn.
Yeah.
It took me, I still don't even know that I do that as well as I could.
Well, people, it kind of gets beat out of you, right?
Yeah. And you're like, well, why do you think that? And
right. And it's just the more I've worked, the more people I've worked with and seen more, businesses, those God-given instincts are there for a reason. And really, it rarely behooves you to betray those.
Ask you one more question.
Oh, yeah.
What's the biggest mistake you think you ever made?
Oh, that's a good one. Zoe and I always joke that we try to make $100 mistakes, not $1,000 mistakes.
That's funny.
Right? So, but it's true, because you really, you're gonna make mistakes. It's just part of the process.
Yep.
But you have to learn and try not to make them again. And if you're thinking about it, you try to minimize them. When we first started our trade show, we started out with what we thought would be a great business model, because what we were trying to do is, so we charged just a very low rate to get in to cover off on just the cost of putting it together.
Yep.
And then what we were doing is charging a percentage of sales, so that the only way that Midwest Pantry would make money was if buyers came and bought from the producers.
Right.
Because then that meant the producers were getting orders and selling, and that meant we did a good job. And to me, that made a lot of sense.
Yep.
But it was an idea ahead of its time, because people didn't really know how to value that.
Yeah.
So it actually devalued what we were doing, and people were leery of us, because they're like, well, what are you guys up to?
And what percent? Yeah, people don't like percents.
No.
They like flat fees. They like simplicity.
Because I can base, when I go shopping for clothes, which I never do, but but if I look at, I basically can tell you if I like the jeans that I'm looking at by how much they cost.
Right.
For that price, I do like them or not.
Yeah.
It's just, people can make that exchange, right? So we had to simplify that, and it was, it was a mistake. But
do you do all the accounting for your company?
That is a mistake for me. I should have gone into accounting. You really do need a good accountant. I'm awful at it. I love talking to people, and I love the marketing, and I love all that. I loathe doing the accounting and stuff. So, yeah, Amy's done all of our accounting. So,
and it's good to, I think the lesson there is kind of to know what you're good at. And a lot of times I think entrepreneurs and small business people, they just trip over nickels, trying to not spend money. But sometimes spending money frees you up to do something else that is what you're really good at.
Exactly. If you're working on the wrong thing, it's just time away from doing the stuff you should be doing.
Yeah.
And there's a cost to that. And a lot of times when you're starting up, you don't know those things. And so you have to be everything, and you chase all these opportunities, and you do have to be everything to everyone. But that has an expiration date.
Yeah. And there's a wisdom that comes with
because all of a sudden you're not willing to be hauling your product in and out of a rented kitchen because it's $5 an hour.
Yeah.
There comes a point where it's just so much volume that it's not worth that.
Yeah.
So
All
that's
right.
cool.
Well, good advice. Thank you for being here today, Chad. I really appreciate it. Episode 10. Woo woo.
Yeah, this is cool. Thank you so much.
If you're looking for how to get a hold of Midwest Pantry, you can find us on our social media assets, and we appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me. It's awesome.